Hi viewers, thank you very much for joining Telecom Legends series. We are very happy to introduce one of the real telecom veteran, Mr. Umang Das today. Mr. Umang Das actually doesn't need an introduction. Anybody who has attended any webinars, seminars, various associations, functions, events, I think you'll find him everywhere. He's like one of the loved speaker, and he has got long experience in overall industry, but more than 30 years in telecom. I'm very fortunate that I started my career in the same group as Mr. Umang Das. I was much junior, but definitely I think when I came to know about him, I think I've been always approaching him for his support and help. Very useful, very helpful guidance I've been getting from him. So, Mr. Umang Das, thanks a lot for sparing your time today. Just, this series is basically to, like, we're reaching out to millions of students in the colleges, right, and also youth in the industry. So, we like them to know, right, India Telecom today, I think we are second largest in the world. India Telecom is making us proud. I think in coming years, the way India is known for IT, I think India will be known for IT and telecom. And like we have actually covered a long distance in 25 years when very few people had phones at home. From today, where we have got such a high tele density, we are second largest in the world, number one user of data in the world. So, what is your what will you like to tell about this journey, and how do you really like your journey so far?
Okay, Arvind, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be with you. And the fact that you have initiated this Telecom Legends idea, because many of us do come with a background, and the fact that you provide an opportunity is a very good step in the right direction. I think, as you rightly mentioned, telecom in India has come a long way since 31st July 1995, when the first mobile call was made. And that was a call which was made when, I'm proud to say, I was the CEO of the company in Calcutta, Modi Telstra, when we made the first mobile call. So we have obviously come a long way since then. And when we look at the current situation, what gives a feeling of sense of pride is that it is not only in being the largest in terms of number of subscribers and things like that, but also from a manufacturing perspective, we are now talking of India Stack. Now, India Stack, where we are saying that end to end, the C dot setup, which started way back in the middle 80s, has come of age to such an extent that what was all imported stuff earlier, telecom equipments, phones, everything was imported. Today we are talking of almost everything being made in India. Whether make in India, made in India, idea is that it is coming out of the Indian manufacturing factories. It's a great sense of satisfaction. I was being told the other day that the 5G stack will include the core network in addition to the RAN and the other elements, as also the fact that the phones are now being made in India in very large numbers, so much so that instead of being an importer, we are looking at becoming an exporter. So I think this whole change of outlook and the fact that now we have the Digital India coming in as a big vision, and in that, Make in India becomes a subset of that. So the fact that we can talk about it along those lines, I'm sure augurs very well as we move into the future of expanding 5G in a bigger way, of getting into the India Stack going global. So I think the opportunities are very many which go beyond the shores of the country.
So Umang, you have actually such a long telecom career, and now also you are absolutely up to date. I see you in various seminars and symposiums. What is your guidance to the youth today? From career point of view, you think telecom is a good career for them, and what is your advice to them on that?
So I would say that this is an excellent opportunity for the youth, and nothing could be a better time when the whole global scenario is changing. Industry 4.0 is coming, which is also called the digital engagement. It is all going to be around digital. And it's fortunate that our youth are now going through that process. So the opportunities will be in all directions. But what I would like to add is that it is not only a job perspective, but it is also an entrepreneurial perspective. And therefore, in TSSC, as we prepare candidates, not only from a theoretical point of view, but by skilling them for different types of technologies, for different types of product range, it is also a time to see that how we can promote this capability beyond India and the opportunities which are going in a global environment. When we say India is going to be G20, there's also a G South where there's a big gap. And India has already been considered as the technology-led back office for the world. All the major corporations are here, whether it is Microsoft or it is Intel or it is the various telecom companies, Google, everyone has large-scale offices here. So these are all job opportunities because they are recognizing Indian talent. They are recognizing Indian skills. And with organizations like TSSC who are going to further bolster the capability, I think the opportunity for the young people is tremendous. And the capability should be such that they not only go in for job training and job skilling and jobs, but also look at entrepreneurial scope. And therefore, courses and training opportunities where they can become entrepreneurs. Because entrepreneurs is an end-to-end approach. It is not a structured large corporation. It is a structured thing. It is a, shall we say, non-structured in that sense, because you have to be doing everything about everything. And therefore, an entrepreneur must have a vision, an attitude, an outlook. And that also comes not only through just because of generational and issues, but also because of the kind of training which is imparted to them. And I would therefore urge that the opportunity which is there should be honed in on a more professional basis, both in terms of training and skilling, which is leading to young entrepreneurs coming up. Because in 5G, unlike everybody just depending on their equipment vendors to help them, they will have to have their own capability. Because this is going to be a highly decentralized network. And when you are in multiple locations, people have to be capable of handling things themselves. So I think that the opportunity is great, but it is also challenging. And therefore, organizations like TSSC have a very big role to play. In the context of the rollout, in the context that we want to be an R&D leader and talking of 6G, the Prime Minister has inaugurated a test bench in favor of 6G. We are talking of globalized companies in India are also in a global environment. Airtel is there in Africa in a very big way. Africa is not one continent, it is 55 countries. How do we understand their requirements and how can we provide skills? So I think for our youth, it's a global opportunity. It is not limited to India alone. And for organizations like TSSC, I think this is just the time to really flower out and see that people get that avail of that opportunity and get the best out of it.
Yeah, Umang, I think you rightly mentioned that India is providing managed services to more than 150 countries sitting from here. Like there are like all the youth who are working in back offices here, sitting here, like they are providing that, and it has been going on for a long time. And then now PM has announced as far as moving from 4G to 5G, as government has taken a decision that we should have maximum on network, right? But 6G paper, which has been published last week, which has been inaugurated by Prime Minister, in that, it has come out very clear vision document is there that, in 2028, 2030, by the time 6G is launched world over, we should not only be doing our own 6G technology, we should be the biggest technology supplier to the world. So my question to you is that what kind of manpower we need to prepare for that? What is the volume of business that can generate? What kind of opportunity it is going to throw to all of us?
I think the point is, Arvind, that when we go from 5G to 6G, I think one basic issue is that earlier we were following somebody else's standards. In 6G, we want to set the standards. So if you want to set the standards, it has to be based on the special considerations in a rural environment for India, which may or may not be applicable for European organizations from where most of the standards have been emanating in the past. So I think 6G will lend that opportunity. But as far as 5G is concerned, I think we should look at what are the new applications and opportunities which will come and then get ourselves organized. For example, today we are talking of artificial intelligence, we are talking of robotics, we are talking of IoT and M2M learning. So all these technologies will mean a lot of preparation and understanding of that and skilling of our people. And I would say, frankly, there is no particular skill development corporation in the NSDC outlook who is looking at these things from a training, skilling, and job point of view. So I think for TSSC, it is an open environment.
Right.
And they could very well expand. And in fact, I was jokingly thinking the other day that instead of saying TSSC, it should become DSSC, Digital Skill Development Center or Council, rather than calling it telecom. It is not telecom, it is now digital. And your scope of expansion goes into the new technologies which are being promoted. And frankly, many of us are just naming things. I mean, we have to actually experience it. We have to actually do the practicals. Now, suddenly this chat GPT has come up. Then we are talking of 4G chat GPT. No, I mean, it is really opening up the doors.
Right.
And unless or until we come up to speed and talk knowledgeably, because the rest of the industries in India, whether it is health sector, education, they will all be looking at us. I mean, when I say us, I'm referring to infra players, operators, because we together constitute the digital environment. After all, we cannot say that we are infra providers, we are operators. We have to look at ourselves in a totality that we are the digital group. And it becomes our responsibility to pass on the knowledge and understanding of those applications, which will go into health, robotic surgery, or what will go into education, remote education, far-reaching places. How do we do emergency treatment? How do we take the advantage of the 5G benefits and then pass that on? Because अपने country में क्या है जी, Arvind, that everything goes on together. So you have 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. Even we have not exploited 4G to the full extent.
Exactly.
Leave alone 5G. In
Right.
5G, there's a huge task of laying the basic infrastructure.
Right.
And after all, where is the data generated? It is generated in buildings. It is not generated on the road. In-building solutions will be a very, very big area. Because when you come in from 5G and you need a back-end infrastructure which is multiplicity of sites, it is no longer the typical macro tower which you and I are more familiar with once upon a time. Today it is all fiber-based sites, street furniture, and small cells and chota antenna, pulling it in, and when you go in, then every nook and cranny of the house should be covered through a 5G wireless. How do you do all that? We are very, very far away. I mean, we are saying that 200 cities covered, 300 cities covered, but covered means some connectivity has arrived, no doubt. But we have a big task. And who will fulfill the task unless and until we people skill ourselves, prepare ourselves? And these are all new courses. I mean, we are in a learning process. So I think the task is enormous. But the challenge is so exciting that younger people would like to jump into it. And we become the teacher to the world, and at least teacher to our own various industries who are anyway knowing much less than what we are. So I think we have to build up.
Right.
But the responsibility lies more on us than anybody else.
So, Umang, I know you personally, and definitely, like you have been, besides work, I think you have been doing a lot of philanthropic work. You have been involved with various organizations. Um, in your opinion, like how other, like these NGOs and other organizations, how they can contribute to the scaling, and like what is your guidance to us on that?
See, my feeling, Arvind, is that this skilling area has to be led the other way around, meaning it has to be led by the industry. It has to be led by the players, whether it is Jio, Airtel, Voda, BSNL, whoever.
Right.
And not only them, there are many other companies who are coming up from the OTT platform perspective, because that is being played on the telecom networks ultimately. So it is the industry which has to lead this and decide what kind of people they are looking for, what kind of training is needed. And TSSC then, in consonance with NSDC and government and all that, evolve courses and curricula which is relevant to that. And then we, shall we say, promote all this with the candidates. Because it should not be the other way around, that they are joining a skilling university and from a university they are coming here and then they are being fine-tuned and take a job. Because there may be a mismatch. And that is why what we find is, current experience, Arvind, I don't think I'm too wrong when I say that the people who get skilled, those who are job fit or who take the job, is not even 50%. So there's a huge gap.
Right.
And why should the gap be there? So therefore, if it is led the other way around, then as I have been experiencing through some of these courses, that the practical is then combined with the on-job training. And the on-job training happens in the employer's works. So it is all tailor-made. So I think the whole scenario becomes the upside down. It has to be the other way around. And if large corporations, and I think your structure is wonderful. You have a board of directors where all the CEOs and the directors of the companies are part of your board. So I think from that point of view, the structure is very good. We have to see how to get the best out of them.
Right. Good. So, Umang, I think they're very, very good thoughts which came from you. And to make it interesting for the youth, we have just kept a rapid fire round. There'll be some questions, interesting questions. I'd like you to just quickly answer that, whatever comes to your mind. So, what was your first job?
My first job was, you mean first job in the context of telecom or otherwise first job? I started my career in 1970 and I still remember the date, 20th September 1970. I joined Crompton Greaves. And I joined them as a management trainee way back on that date. And I continued with them for 24 years.
Right.
So from 1970 to 1994, I had one job, which may be a huge surprise to the youth and the people who are talking of 1 year and 2 years. I continued 24 years. And that included several changes within the organization. So I started the telecom story in Crompton Greaves in 1987. And that is how we came on to 1994, when then they were still to get into mobile, and I was attracted by the mobile story. And then I joined my first job in that context. The first mobile call we made in Modi Telstra. I was the CEO of that company.
Good. So what is...
I would say two first. One is when I joined the work job, and the other is when I went into this industry.
Okay, good. So what is your, like in school, what was your favorite subject?
Well, I was very fond of social sciences actually at that time. So history and geography and, that kind of area. In fact, I used to think in terms of going for the IS. So, I mean, I was okay on science and all, but my own interest was more in civics, social sciences, history, geography, that kind of thing. And I also wanted to go in for that administrative services career. But, by the time all that happened, the typical times in 1970 was that you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a chartered accountant, something like that. And I voted ultimately for engineering.
So one big thing in your career, like which makes you very proud of yourself.
No, I'm very proud of the feeling that we have innovated and started new businesses. So within the organization, in Crompton Greaves, I started at least 5 new businesses. So that gives me a tremendous sense of achievement. We went in for international, so we opened up Iraq, and the international division we started practically with Iraq. So that was good. Another example is when we started the telecom story and we brought in 3 joint ventures into India, Oki of Japan, Siemens and Quint of US. All that was fresh work, new work. And when I joined here, we gave a commitment to Jyoti Basuji, Chief Minister of West Bengal, is sitting and talking to him in October, November 1994, when he asked for a commitment as to when will the first mobile call be made and how will Calcutta be brought first on the map. And without knowing too much about cellular, GSM, mobile and all that, I was with Dr. B.K. Modi, my chairman, and he looked at me. I also didn't know, but I made a commitment of 31st July 1995 because I felt that 9 months is there. Typically, it takes 1 year. So if you want to be first, then we should do it 9 months. And that is how the 31st July 1995 date came. And I'm proud to say that irrespective of so many hurdles and issues and this and that, on 31st July, we did make the first mobile call in India. So that is my proud moment. And I always talk about it.
I heard that I think the first cellular call was made by you in the country.
Yes,
that's
please.
true. Yeah, that's great. That's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
And what is like globally, what is the telecom brand you admire?
As a brand?
Yeah, any telecom company in the world.
No, I mean, I have always looked at companies like Vodafone as global brands in the telecom world because these are organizations who look long term.
Okay.
And another company I admire is Nokia. Nokia is another company which is very people oriented.
Right.
And they have been technology leaders. They went through a rough time, but they are again coming up with the latest in the world. So I think these are organizations which take a global view, and not because their headquarters is Helsinki or London or something like that. I mean, they take a global view, and I think that's what matters today.
Okay, and last question, what is the best advice you ever got, and who gave you that? Except the wife.
I've had many advisors, so I can't give any one name to you just like that. But I would say that my father gave me the best advice earlier on as to what career to go for, because I was talking of IAS and this and that. And he felt that engineering is the way to go. And today I have nothing to complain about. So it is a thought which came way back, and we were relatively obedient in those days. So we followed it, but it was the most priceless advice that I could have got.
Thank you, Umang. I think all our listeners and all these young youth students, they will know that legend like you, like who started, like who made the first call, first cellular call in this country, and who was instrumental in bringing technology to the country, is talking to them. So this is a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Arvind. It is a pleasure talking to you. And we are good friends and we continue to be engaged with each other.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.